The sky above Prime was burning. Grand Counselor stood at the observation window of Orbital Station 7 and watched her world die. Orange and red flames spread across the surface like a disease. Each flash of light was a city. Each explosion was a million lives ending. The Dominion had come without warning. Their warships appeared at the edge of the system 3 days ago. 200 vessels, dark and sharp like the teeth of some great beast. They sent no demands. They offered no terms. They simply began to kill. Was old for a. Her blue skin had faded to almost white, and her four-fingered hands shook when she was tired. She had served on the Grand Council for 40 years. She had seen wars before, but she had never seen anything like this. "Counselor," a voice called from behind her. It was her young communications officer. His voice was tight with fear. "The last defense fleet has been destroyed. We have nothing left." Did not turn from the window. "How many ships do we have remaining?" 3 transport vessels, 2 medical frigates, nothing with weapons. "And the evacuation?" Was quiet for a moment. "We have saved perhaps 200,000 people. There are 3 billion on the surface." Closed her eyes. 3 billion. Mothers and fathers. Children who had never seen war. Elders who remembered when they were a proud and peaceful people. All of them were going to die because the Dominion wanted their planet. No, not because they wanted the planet. They did not conquer for resources or land. They conquered because they enjoyed it. They were predators, and the galaxy was their hunting ground. "Have any of our allies responded?" asked. "The Merchant Collective says they cannot spare ships. The unified worlds have closed their borders. The silicon mines have not answered at all." His voice broke. "No one is coming, Counselor. No one cares." Finally turned from the window. The command center of the orbital station was filled with her people. Officers, technicians, soldiers with no weapons left to fire. They all looked at her with the same expression, hope mixed with despair. They wanted her to save them, but they knew she could not. "Send a distress call," said. "All channels, every frequency we have." "Counselor, we have already sent hundreds of calls. No one is responding." "Then send more. Send them to channels we have never used, old frequencies, dead relays. I do not care if we reach the edge of the universe. Someone must hear us." Hesitated. "There are some frequencies we are forbidden to use, old ones. They point toward restricted space." "Restricted by whom?" "The Galactic Council. 200 years ago, they sealed off an entire region of space. No one is allowed to send signals there. No one is allowed to visit." Frowned. She remembered the stories, though they were old and faded. A species had been discovered long ago, a young species from a small blue planet. They had been quarantined, locked away in their own system. She could not remember why. "What species lives there?" she asked. "Humans," said. The word came out like a whisper. "They are called humans." Several officers nearby went still. One of them, an elderly named Song who served as the station's historian, stepped forward. His face was pale. "Counselor, we cannot contact the humans. The quarantine exists for good reason." "What reason?" Song looked uncomfortable. "The humans are dangerous. 200 years ago, they made first contact with the galaxy. Within 50 years, they had learned our technologies, improved them, and begun expanding. 17 species formed an alliance to stop them. The contact wars lasted only 3 years, but the damage was." He trailed off. "Were they defeated?" asked. "No, they were contained. The alliance could not destroy them, so they made a deal. The humans would stay in their home system. In exchange, they would be left alone. The quarantine has held ever since." Looked back at the window. Another flash of light on the surface. Another million dead. "We helped quarantine them, didn't we?" she said quietly. "Yes, Counselor. They were part of the alliance." "And now we are dying and no one in the galaxy will help us," laughed bitterly. "Perhaps we deserve this." "Counselor." "Send the signal, all frequencies. including the restricted ones. The command center erupted in protests. Officers shouted warnings. Song begged her to reconsider, but raised her hand and silence fell. "I understand your fear," she said. "I understand the humans are dangerous, but they are killing us right now. The humans are a threat that might come. They are a death that is certain. I choose the chance over the certainty." She looked at. The young officer's hands were trembling, but he nodded. "Send it," said. "Beg anyone who will listen. Tell them we are dying. Tell them we need help. And pray that someone answers." Turned to his console. His fingers moved across the controls. The station's communication array hummed to life, and a signal burst outward into the void. The message was simple: coordinates, a plea for help, a promise of payment or service or whatever the rescuers might want. It traveled at faster-than-light speeds, bouncing through relay stations, echoing off satellites, spreading in every direction. Most of the signal went to empty space. Some reached species who ignored it. Some reached species who could not help. But one small piece of the signal found an ancient beacon, floating in the dark at the edge of restricted space. The beacon was 200 years old, built by the Galactic Council to warn travelers away from human territory. The beacon was supposed to block incoming signals, but it was old and its systems had degraded. The signal slipped through and continued on its journey toward a small yellow star and a blue-green planet called Earth. 3 days passed. They continued their bombardment. More cities fell. More people died, stopped sleeping. She stood at the window and watched and waited for the end. Then's console made a sound no one had heard before, an incoming transmission from restricted space. Counselor said. His voice was strange. "Someone is answering." Walked to the console. On the screen she could see the transmission data. The signal was coming from the human home system, from Earth. "Play it," she said. Static filled the speakers. Then a voice came through. It was deep and strong, speaking in a language the translator struggled to interpret. But slowly, words emerged. "This is Admiral Park of the Korean Space Command, representing the United Earth Fleet. We have received your distress signal. Our fleet is mobilizing. Estimated arrival time is 4 standard days. Hold your position. Help is coming." The command center was silent. No one moved, no one breathed. Looked up at, his face had gone from hopeful to terrified. "Counselor, we called the humans. The humans are coming." Stared at the screen. Her hearts were beating fast. She thought of the stories she had heard. The contact wars, the quarantine, the species so dangerous that 17 races had united against them. "What have we done?" she whispered. But even as fear filled her chest, something else stirred, something small and desperate. Hope. The humans were coming, and for the first time in 3 days they had a chance. Admiral Park had waited his entire life for this moment. He stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, the largest warship in the United Earth Fleet, and watched the stars stretch into lines as they jumped through space. He was 62 years old. His hair had turned and deep lines marked his face. He had joined the Korean Space Command when he was 18, a young man with dreams of exploring the galaxy. But the galaxy had not wanted humans. They had been locked away, caged in their own system like animals. For 44 years had trained. He had studied. He had prepared for a war that everyone said would never come. His wife had died 10 years ago, and his children had grown up without him. He had given everything to the fleet, and the fleet had given him nothing but waiting. Until now. "Admiral," Commander said from beside him. She was his executive officer, a woman of 45 with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. "We will arrive at the target system in 3 hours. Ship status. All 17 capital ships report ready. 42 support vessels standing by. 6 carrier groups have launched reconnaissance drones ahead of our position." Nodded. 17 capital ships. It was not the full strength of the United Earth Fleet, but it was enough for a quick response. More ships were following behind, but they would not arrive for days. "And the enemy?" he asked. Pulled up the tactical display. A holographic image appeared in the air, showing the system. Around the fourth planet, a cloud of red dots clustered like angry insects. "Dominion," she said. "Over 200 warships currently in orbit. They are conducting a planetary bombardment. Based on the damage patterns, we estimate they have already killed between 500 million and 1 billion civilians." Felt his jaw tighten. He had studied everyone in the fleet had. They were one of the galaxy's most feared species. Reptilian, predatory. They conquered worlds not for resources but for pleasure. They enjoyed killing. What do we know about their ships? Heavy armor, energy-based weapons, shield technology designed to absorb and redirect beam attacks. Paused. "Sir, they outnumber us more than 10 to 1. "I am aware." Some of the officers are concerned. Almost smiled. "Are you concerned, Commander?" Met his eyes. "No, sir, I have seen our weapons tests. I know what we can do." "Good, then let the officers know that their concern is noted but unnecessary." He turned back to they have never fought humans. They do not know what is coming. 3 hours later, the fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Through could see the distant glow of the planet. Even from here, he could see the fires burning on the surface. "Open a channel to the orbital station," he ordered. A moment later, a face appeared on the screen. Blue skin, 4 fingers, large, dark eyes filled with fear and wonder, recognized her from the intelligence briefings. Grand Counselor, leader of the government. "This is Admiral Park," he said. "We received your distress call. We are here to help." Stared at him, her mouth opened but no words came out. Finally, she spoke in a trembling voice. "You came. You actually came." "We did." "But why? We were part of the alliance that quarantined your people. We helped lock you away." Was silent for a moment. He had thought about this question many times during the journey. What did humanity owe the galaxy? The galaxy had feared them, caged them, forgotten them. For 200 years, humans had watched the stars from behind invisible bars. "Counselor," he said finally, "we received a distress call. Someone was dying and asked for help. That is all we needed to know." Tears formed in his eyes. "Admiral, they have over 200 ships. You have how many?" 17 capital ships, 60 total vessels." "That is not enough. You will be destroyed." Smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Counselor, I suggest you watch and learn." He closed the channel and turned to his bridge crew. Young officers sat at their stations, their faces tense but determined. They had trained for this moment. They had dreamed of it. Now it was here. "Open a channel to the flagship," ordered. The flickered, a new face appeared. It was reptilian, covered in dark green scales. Rows of sharp teeth filled its mouth, and its yellow eyes gleamed with amusement. "Unknown vessels," the commander said. The translator made its hissing voice sound almost pleasant. "You interfere with Dominion business. Identify yourselves or be destroyed." "I am Admiral Park of the Korean Space Command, representing the United Earth Fleet. You are attacking a civilian population. You will cease your bombardment and withdraw from this system." The commander laughed. It was a horrible sound like stones grinding together. "Humans, the quarantined apes, you dare give orders to the Dominion. You have 3 minutes to comply." 3 minutes, more laughter. "Look at your numbers, human. We have 200 ships. You have less than 20. This is not a battle. This is suicide." 2 minutes, 50 seconds. The commander's eyes narrowed. "You are either very brave or very stupid. Perhaps both. But it does not matter. The Dominion will crush you, and then we will finish what we started with these pathetic." 2 minutes, 40 seconds. The commander snarled and cut the transmission. On the tactical display, watched the red dots begin to move. The fleet was forming up. They were preparing to attack. Commander stepped closer. "Sir, they are not taking us seriously." "I know, that is their mistake." "Orders." Looked at the display. 200 enemy ships against 60 of his own. The numbers said he should lose. The numbers said this was impossible. But the numbers did not know humans. "All ships battle formation," he said. His voice was calm and steady. "Load primary weapons. Target their forward elements." Around him, the bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. They had drilled this scenario 1,000 times. Every officer knew their role. Every system was ready. "Formation complete," reported. "All weapons loaded and targeting." "Enemy fleet is closing," Lieutenant called from the weapons station. She was young, only 28, but her hands were steady on the controls. "They will be in range in 90 seconds." Watched the ships approach. They were confident, arrogant. They had conquered dozens of worlds. They had never lost a battle. They had never fought humans. All ships said, "Fire." The fleet erupted. From every capital ship, massive cannons launched their payload into the void. Not energy beams, not plasma bolts, simple metal. Tungsten rods, each one the size of a vehicle, accelerated to a fraction of light speed. They had designed their shields to stop energy weapons. They absorbed beams and redirected plasma. They were among the most advanced defensive systems in the galaxy. They could not stop a piece of metal moving at 40,000 kilometers per second. The first salvo hit the forward line. 6 cruisers vanished in an instant, torn apart by kinetic impacts. The tungsten rods did not stop there. They punched through the debris, continued on their path, and struck the ships behind them. 12 ships destroyed in 2 seconds. On the flagship, alarms began to scream. On the orbital station, officers stared at their screens in disbelief. And on the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Park spoke 2 words. "Reload fire." The battle for Prime had begun. They had conquered 47 worlds. They had destroyed fleets that outnumbered them. They had broken species that were older than human civilization. In 300 years of warfare, they had never met an enemy they could not defeat. Today, they learned what fear felt like. The first wave of kinetic rounds tore through their forward ships like they were made of paper. Commander, leader of the fleet, stared at his tactical display in disbelief. 12 ships gone in seconds, not damaged, gone, erased from existence. "What weapons are they using?" he demanded. "Our shields should stop any attack." His weapons officer scrambled at the controls. "Commander, they are not using energy weapons. They are firing solid projectiles, metal. Our shields are designed to absorb energy, not physical objects." "Then adapt the shields." I do not know how, Commander. Our technology is not designed for this." Another salvo hit. 10 more ships vanished. The human fleet had not even moved from their position. They simply stood at the edge of the system and fired, and fired, and fired. On the Indomitable, Admiral Park watched the battle unfold on his tactical display. They were dying, but they were not running. He had expected that. Predators did not flee from prey. They attacked harder. "Enemy fleet is scattering," Commander reported. "They are breaking formation and attempting to flank us." "Good, they are learning," studied the display. "But not fast enough. Task Force 2 intercept their left flank. Task Force 3 hold the center. I want our carriers to launch fighters. Do not let them reach the planet." The human fleet moved like a single creature. Each ship knew its role. Each captain understood the plan. They had trained together for decades, waiting for this moment. They tried to adapt. They spread out, making themselves harder targets. They increased speed, hopping to close the distance before the humans could reload. They launched their own fighters, thousands of small craft swarming toward the human line. But humans had been fighting each other for thousands of years. Every tactic they tried, human officers had already studied. Every move they made, the humans had countered 1,000 times in simulations. When the fighters approached, human point defense systems came alive. Thousands of small cannons tracked the incoming craft and filled the void with metal. The pilots were skilled, but they could not dodge bullets that moved faster than they could think. When the cruisers tried to circle around, human destroyers were waiting. They appeared from behind asteroids and moons, where they had hidden while the main fleet drew attention. The ships were caught in crossfire and torn apart. "Commander," an officer shouted on the flagship, "we have lost 60 ships. The humans have lost none." Slammed his clawed fist against his command chair. "Impossible. They are just humans. They are supposed to be weak. They are supposed to be primitive." "Their weapons are primitive, Commander, but they are effective." "Then we board them. Our warriors are stronger than any other species. We will tear them apart with our claws." The flagship surged forward, surrounded by 20 heavy cruisers. They aimed directly at the Indomitable. If they could reach the human flagship, they could end this battle. On the Indomitable's bridge, Lieutenant tracked the incoming ships. "Admiral, enemy flagship is approaching. They appear to be attempting a boarding action." Smiled, "Let them come. Sergeant Major, is your team ready?" A voice crackled through the communication system. It belonged to leader of the ship's Marine detachment. She was 40 years old, built like a mountain, and had spent her entire adult life training for combat. "Ready and waiting, Admiral. My teams are in position at all boarding points. They are larger and stronger than us. They have claws that can cut through metal." "I know, sir. That just makes it more interesting." The ships closed the distance. Their weapons fired wildly, trying to damage the human ships enough to slow them down. But the Indomitable's armor was thick, designed to withstand impacts that would destroy other vessels. The first cruiser latched onto the Indomitable's hull. Cutting beams burned through the metal, creating a breach. Warriors poured through, their yellow eyes gleaming with hunger. They were 3 meters tall, covered in scales, with claws that could tear a human in half. They expected to find soft creatures, weak prey, easy kills. Instead, they found Sergeant Major. She stood at the front of her squad, wearing powered armor that made her almost as tall as the... In her hands, she held a weapon that was older than space travel itself. A gun. A simple gun that fired metal projectiles at high speed. "Welcome to the Indomitable," she said. Then she pulled the trigger. The first warrior fell with a hole in its chest. The second fell with a hole in its head. The third managed to take one step forward before 3 Marines fired at once and tore it apart. They were fast, they were strong, but they had never fought in corridors before. Their tactics were designed for open spaces where they could use their size and speed. In the tight passages of a human ship, they were just large targets. Led her team forward into the breach. They did not wait for them to come to them. They went hunting. "Push them back," she ordered. "I want that cruiser cleared in 10 minutes." Her Marines moved with perfect coordination. They had trained for this exact scenario. Every corner was covered. Every door was breached with grenades before entry. Every that appeared was met with overwhelming firepower. They fought back. They were warriors born and bred for combat. Their claws tore through walls. Their teeth crushed metal. One of them managed to reach a Marine and rip his arm off before the others killed it. But for every human that fell, 10 died. For every wound they inflicted, the humans inflicted 100. 11 minutes after the breach, Sergeant Major stood on the bridge of the cruiser. The captain lay dead at her feet. Around her, her Marines secured the room. "Admiral," she reported, "enemy cruiser secured. We have prisoners." On the Indomitable's bridge allowed himself a small smile. "Well done, Sergeant Major. Proceed to the next target." Commander looked at the tactical display. The fleet was in chaos. Over 100 ships destroyed, dozens more damaged. The human fleet had lost only 3 vessels, and none of them were capital ships. "Sir," she said, They are breaking. The remaining ships are retreating to the system edge. Watched the red dots flee. The flagship was among them, its engines burning at full power. Commander had finally understood. He had finally felt fear. "Pursuit course," ordered. "I want that flagship." "Admiral, we could let them go. The planet is saved." Shook his head. "If we let them run, they will return with more ships. They will tell their empire that humans can be defeated with enough numbers. They will come back, and they will destroy not just this world but every world that might call us for help." He stood from his command chair. His old bones ached, but his voice was strong. "No, today the galaxy learned something it has forgotten. Today the galaxy remembers why they feared us. Not because we are cruel, not because we enjoy killing, but because when we fight we do not stop, we do not rest, we do not show mercy to those who show none to others." He looked at his crew, young men and women who had grown up in a cage, dreaming of the stars they could not reach. Now they were free. Now they were fighting. "All ships," Admiral Park said, "hunt them down." The human fleet surged forward into the dark. Grand Counselor had stopped breathing. She stood at the observation window of Orbital Station 7 and watched something impossible happen. They were running. The greatest predators in the galaxy were fleeing from 17 human ships. Around her, the command center had fallen silent. Officers stared at their screens. Technicians had forgotten their work. Even the wounded had stopped groaning. Everyone watched the battle unfold in the void. "This cannot be real," whispered. He stood beside, his young face pale with shock. "They have never lost. They destroyed the Empire. They broke the Stellar Compact. They have conquered 47 worlds. And now they run from humans," said softly. On the tactical display, she watched the human fleet pursue the retreating. They did not chase wildly. They moved with purpose, cutting off escape routes, herding the enemy ships toward a single point. It was like watching predators hunt prey. But they were supposed to be the predators. Song, the station's historian, stood nearby. His hands trembled as he held a data tablet. "I have been reading the old records," he said. "The files from the contact wars 200 years ago." "What do they say?" asked. "They say we were fools to fear them." Song's voice was quiet. "The humans did not start the contact wars. We did. 17 species formed an alliance because we were afraid of how quickly they learned. In 50 years, they went from first contact to matching our technology. In another 10 years, they would have surpassed us. So we attacked them." "Yes, and they fought back." Song scrolled through his tablet. "The records say they were different from other species. When most races fight, they seek advantage. They look for weakness. But humans fight to protect. Every battle they won, they offered peace afterward. Every enemy they defeated, they tried to help rebuild." Frowned. "Then why did we quarantine them?" "Because they would not stop fighting until their people were safe. They did not care about our numbers or our technology. They just kept coming. We could not defeat them, so we made a deal. They would stay in their system and we would leave them alone." And they agreed. They were tired of war. They wanted peace. So yes, they agreed. Song lowered his tablet. "For 200 years they sat in their cage and watched the galaxy. They saw the conquer world after world. They saw species die. They saw suffering they could have stopped. And they did nothing because they had made a promise." Felt something twist in her chest. Guilt. Shame. For 2 centuries the humans had been trapped by a promise they chose to keep. And now, when a desperate signal reached them, they had come anyway. "They came to save us," she said, "even though we helped imprison them, even though we abandoned them." "Yes, Counselor, they came." On the tactical display, the human fleet had surrounded the remaining ships. The enemy flagship was trapped, its engines damaged, its weapons failing. It had nowhere left to run. A communication request appeared on its console. The human admiral was calling. She accepted with trembling hands. Admiral Park appeared on the screen. He looked tired but calm. Behind him, his bridge crew worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. "Grand Counselor," he said, "the fleet has been neutralized. Their flagship is disabled. Do you wish to negotiate with them, or shall we finish this?" Stared at him. "You are asking me. This is your world, your people. The choice should be yours." She thought about it. They had killed over 1 billion. They had burned cities and slaughtered children. They had come not for conquest but for sport. Every instinct in her body screamed for revenge. But she thought of what Song had said. The humans fought to protect. They offered peace to enemies they defeated. "Take their commander alive," she said finally. "Let there be a trial. Let the galaxy see what they did and what we did to stop them." Nodded. "A wise choice, Counselor. We will secure the prisoners." "Admiral, why are you doing this? Truly, your people owe us nothing." Was silent for a moment. His dark eyes seemed to look through the screen, through space itself, all the way to his heart. "When I was a child," he said slowly, "my grandmother told me stories. She was very old, old enough to remember Earth before we reached the stars. She said that when she was young, her village was destroyed by a flood. Many people died, but strangers came from other villages to help. They brought food and medicine and hands to rebuild. They did not know her family. They did not owe her anything, but they came anyway." He paused. "My grandmother asked one of the strangers why they helped. The stranger said something simple. She said, 'Because you needed help and we could give it.' That is all. No conditions, no payment, just help given freely." Felt tears forming in her eyes. "The galaxy locked us away because they feared us," continued. "Perhaps they were right to fear. We are dangerous. We fight hard and we do not stop, but that is not all we are. We are also the strangers who come when villages flood. We are the ones who help because help is needed. Admiral, I do not know how to repay you." "You do not need to repay us, Counselor. Just remember, when someone else calls for help, remember what it felt like to be answered." The transmission ended. On the tactical display, watched human shuttles approach the flagship. Marines in powered armor boarded the vessel. Minutes later, they emerged with prisoners. The battle was over. For a long moment, stood in silence. Then she turned to face her people, the officers and technicians who had watched the battle, the survivors who had expected to die. "Send a message to the Galactic Council," she said. "Tell them what happened here. Tell them the humans have returned to galactic affairs. And tell them," she paused, searching for the right words, "tell them we owe our lives to the species we helped imprison. Tell them the humans are not what we thought they were." "What are they, Counselor?" asked. Looked back at In the distance, the human fleet was forming up again. Not to attack, not to threaten, just to wait, to guard. "They are better than us," she said quietly. "They are what we should have been all along." Outside, the fires on Prime were dying. The bombardment had stopped. For the first time in days, the sky was dark and peaceful. And in that darkness, human ships kept watch, protecting a world that had once been their enemy. The war was over, but something new was beginning, something that would change the galaxy forever. News traveled faster than light in the galaxy. Within hours of the battle, every species knew what had happened at Prime. The humans had returned. The quarantine was broken, and the most feared conquerors in known space had been crushed by a fleet 1/10 their size. On 100 worlds, governments called emergency meetings. Military commanders reviewed their defenses. Scientists studied every piece of data they could find about human weapons and tactics. Fear spread through the galaxy like a plague. The humans were free. The dangerous species that 17 races had united to contain was now loose among the stars. What would they do? Who would they attack? How long before they came for revenge? But something strange happened in the days after the battle. The humans did not attack anyone. They did not threaten. They did not demand. Instead, they did something no one expected. They helped. Human medical ships arrived at Prime with supplies and doctors. Human engineers came with tools and machines to rebuild the damaged cities. Human soldiers who had killed with terrible efficiency now worked alongside laborers, clearing rubble and rescuing survivors. Admiral Park walked through the ruins of a city called. It had been home to 2 million before the bombardment. Now it was ash and broken stone, but in the wreckage there was life. Children played in the streets while human marines handed out food. Old sat in the shade while human doctors treated their wounds. Commander walked beside him. "Sir, we have received communications from across the galaxy. The Galactic Council wants to meet. They are discussing what to do about us." "What to do about us?" repeated. He watched a human soldier lift a child onto his shoulders. The child was laughing. "Are they afraid?" "Some of them, others are curious. They want to understand why we came." "And what do you tell them?" "The truth, that we received a distress call, that we answered." Nodded slowly. "That is enough. They will understand or they will not. We cannot control what others think of us." They walked through the city for another hour. Everywhere they went stopped to stare at them. Some looked afraid. Some looked grateful. A few came forward to shake their hands or touch their armor as if making sure they were real. Near the center of the city, they found Grand Counselor. She was directing relief efforts, her four-fingered hands gesturing as she gave orders to her people. When she saw, she stopped and walked toward him. "Admiral," she said, "I did not expect to see you here. I wanted to see your world with my own eyes, not through reports." He looked at the destruction around them. "I am sorry we could not arrive sooner." "You arrived at all. That is more than anyone else did." Hesitated. "Admiral, my government wishes to formally thank you. We want to give you something in return for what you have done." "That is not necessary." "Perhaps not, but it is important to us at least." She took a deep breath. "They will speak on your behalf at the Galactic Council. We will tell them what we saw, not just the battle but what came after, the help, the kindness, the humans who could have conquered us but chose to save us instead." Was quiet for a moment. "Counselor, the galaxy may not listen. They feared us once. They may fear us again." "Then we will speak louder. We will make them listen. 200 years ago, my people helped imprison yours. That was wrong. I cannot undo the past, but I can try to build a better future." In the distance, a group of children ran toward a human marine. They shouted something in their language, and the marine laughed and knelt down to their level. He pulled something from his pocket. Candy, perhaps. The children squealed with delight. "This is what I want," said softly. "Not conquest, not revenge, just this. People living together, helping each other. That is what humanity has always wanted." 3 months later, Admiral Park stood in the great chamber of the Galactic Council. Representatives from 30 species sat in rising tiers around him. Their faces showed fear, curiosity, suspicion, and hope. Behind him stood the human delegation: Commander, Sergeant Major, Lieutenant, and Shin, who had been chosen to serve as Earth's ambassador to the galaxy. Grand Counselor rose from her seat. Her voice echoed through the chamber. 2 centuries ago, we gathered in this chamber to decide the fate of humanity. We were afraid. We did not understand them, so we locked them away, hoping they would be forgotten." She paused. 3 months ago, my world was dying. We sent a distress call to the galaxy. No one answered. No one except the species we had imprisoned." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. "The humans came," continued. "They fought for us, they bled for us, they saved us. And when the battle was over, they did not conquer. They did not demand payment. They helped us rebuild. They treated our wounded. They played with our children." She turned to face the human delegation. "I called them monsters once. I was wrong. They are not monsters. They are what we should aspire to be: strong enough to fight, kind enough to heal, brave enough to answer when no one else will." The chamber fell silent. Then Ambassador Shin stepped forward. She was young for a diplomat, only 35, but her eyes were old. She had grown up in the shadow of the quarantine. She had dreamed of stars she was never supposed to reach. "We are not here for apologies," she said. Her voice was clear and strong. "We are not here for revenge. The past is the past. We cannot change it, and we do not wish to dwell on it." She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each representative. "We are here because the galaxy is vast and dangerous. There are threats like the predators who prey on the weak. There are disasters that can destroy worlds. There are calls for help that go unanswered." She paused. "We can change that together." A representative from the remnant spoke. "How can we trust you? Your kind fought 17 species and nearly won." "You cannot trust us," admitted. "Not yet. Trust is earned through action, not words, so let us act. Let us help where help is needed. Let us fight where fighting is necessary. Let us prove through deeds that we mean what we say." Another representative from the Silicon mines spoke in their mechanical voice. "And if we refuse, if we maintain the quarantine?" Smiled. It was a sad smile, but there was warmth in it. "Then we will wait. We waited 200 years. We can wait longer if we must. But know this, the quarantine was already broken. Not by us, but by the distress call that reached through it. The galaxy called us, perhaps by accident, but they called, and we answered." She stepped forward, her hands open and empty. "You can call us again, on purpose this time, or you can close your borders and pretend we do not exist. The choice is yours, but whenever you need help, whenever you are in danger, whenever you cry out into the void," she paused, "we will still answer." The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, Grand Counselor began to clap. Her 4 hands made a strange sound, but the meaning was clear. Others joined. Then more. The applause spread through the chamber like a wave. It was not universal. Some representatives sat with their arms crossed, their faces hard. The fear would not disappear overnight. The mistrust would take years to heal. But it was a beginning. Admiral Park watched from the back of the chamber. He was too old and too tired to smile, but something warm filled his chest. He had spent his life preparing for war. Now he watched his people take the first steps toward peace. Commander stood beside him. "Sir, what happens now?" Now looked at the chamber, at the representatives who were slowly beginning to talk with each other. "Now we do what humans have always done. We work, we help, we build. And when someone calls for help, we answer. And though their empire is still out there, they will want revenge. Let them come, we will be ready." He turned to face his officer. "We will always be ready. That is our gift and our burden, but it is not the only thing we are." Outside the chamber, the stars waited. 1,000 worlds, 1,000 species, 1,000 stories yet to be written. Humanity had been locked away for 200 years. Now they were free. And this time they would not be alone. The galaxy had called them by accident. A desperate signal, sent in fear, answered by strangers who had every reason to ignore it. But humans did not ignore calls for help. They never had. They never would. And now the galaxy knew it.